Welcome to this episode of the Level Design Podcast, in which we look at the world of game development through the lens of level design. This week, I have the pleasure of talking to Jamie Degen, who's joining me to talk about Hellscreen. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, I like that. I've never really thought about how to say Hellscreen, but I think you nailed it there.
You have to have the trademark
Hellscreen. Yeah.
Which is an awesome game. It looks awesome. I mean,
thank you.
If it plays like crap, no one cares. But
No, as long as it looks good, right?
It looks great.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah. That's great.
So how would you describe Hellscreen? It's like a first-person shooter?
So I would describe it as a kind of, it's a retro-flavoured first-person shooter with a rear view mirror. I mean, that's kind of the elevator pitch, but it's got like elements of like a Metroidvania in there. Like, I mean, part of the design.
It looks fast-paced. I mean,
it is very. I mean, it's very fast, but I'm trying to kind of keep an element of strategy in there.
Okay.
Like you would with Doom, right? Where you would sort of like pick which targets you want to go for based on how dangerous they are to you, and I'm sort of playing around a lot with like different weapons affect different enemies in different ways, and you use them in certain ways as well. So it's definitely inspired by Doom. There's elements of like Alien Trilogy, which is an old PS1 game. Like more recently, kind of like I've really been inspired by Dusk in the Medieval. They're doing some really interesting stuff.
Yeah,
like,
I've been hearing about Dusk, but I haven't had a chance to look at it. I mean,
it's great. I mean, like sort of the thing that sort of strikes me about those games is just the level design.
Right.
Like the level design. Like I play those games for research.
Yeah. We all play a game for research.
Right. Yeah. Quote. But like the level design, especially in Medieval, is like I'm making notes all the time. They really just strike something in me where I'm like, wow, I need to do more of that in my thing.
Right. One of there's many memories I have of Doom and Doom 2 from playing them. I bought them in the shop in one in floppies, and I think that one had a CD. The one lasting memory that I've had of Doom is going into a room and shooting a barrel that killed a few imps, that then started shooting, that pissed off the demigod, the Hell Knights, and then they started shooting, and then like the door closed. I came back in 5 minutes later, and I think there was like one man standing.
Yeah.
Or one monster standing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's one of the things I've tried to do with Hellscreen is because all of the enemies in the game so far are these kind of creature-like things. I do want to build on this idea of a bit of an ecosystem. So there's definitely an element of like creatures they will attack each other if they get in the way of fire and all that. But like, I kind of want to think of if you just kind of stop and wait, you will see them do little things. Like they'll just be. It makes me just on a path, but like it will give the sensation of like each creature's doing a role in this overall thing, because the Hellscreen is a giant machine of which you're in. So you're fighting the environment as much as the characters in it, but the characters in it are part of that ecosystem.
Okay, wow.
Just what I mean. So like they're all harvesting souls or like consuming flesh and all that to kind of fuel
the usual hell stuff.
The usual hell stuff, So that's kind of what I'm going for with the characters. But I mean, like, I haven't shown a lot of the environment stuff yet in the way that you kind of fight that as well, because I haven't made it yet.
Right.
But like, there is going to be an element of you kind of manipulating the environment and kind of attacking that, and you being aware of the environment as much as the creatures within it.
Okay. So the environment being another player or another part of your tactic.
Yeah, I mean, it's more the enemy than the actual characters. I mean, it's especially sort of narratively speaking. But like, the immediate threat will be from these creatures, but there'll be things popping out of walls like turrets and things like that, which they're biomechanical as well. They'll seem like creatures in their own right, but they'll feel like sort of ants under a rock, to use that analogy, right? They'll be living in part of the level, popping out, doing something and shooting you or whatever, and so they'll be part of the enemy system as well as the environment system, if that makes sense.
Well, hopefully we'll have to wait to play, right?
All right, yeah.
And if
hope so, fingers crossed.
Yeah, if people out there have a chance, they should go and follow you on Twitter, because like the GIFs that you've been sharing are incredible. They're just...
Thank you. Yeah, I've worried I've been overdoing it with the GIFs actually.
No, I mean,
I spent like a weekend just posting stuff and.
Yeah, you should keep on doing that. I think that's what drives. Like, okay, now I get it, and if you like it, that's going to be your jam, right?
And I think especially because like I haven't got like a marketing budget or anything like that, so the only real way I can do it for now is through these constant updates. I still try and do other things like engage with other communities and like just show people the game and all that sort of thing. But for now, until things change a little bit, like this is just a good way for me to get the word out.
It's also one of the things that, for example, Weather Factory have been doing, that did Cultist Simulator. They talk a lot about this open development and showing people like
and they're killing it as well. I mean, like sort of I see a lot of, I don't like using the word content, but content coming out, and it's always like compelling stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like I think open development is very interesting and maybe even like necessary, because I feel like we're in a place where there's a bit of a like developer/audience divide,
right?
And I think there can be a lot of toxicity from the audience towards the developers
via marketing, right? Because they're being sold something that the other
guys. And I think it would really help for players, to see developers as people, not just some machine or non-entity, right? You know, so.
But also, I mean, I don't have that much experience with the developer audience stuff, but from seeing it, if they can see where you're going with the GIFs that you're posting, like, okay, so like if we went back in history and saw like this dev build, you're not promising anything, you're saying like, this is what I'm building, and then they see it change, then, and they can see the reasons why as they grow along with the product, the expectations have been met and shown, right?
I mean, so what I found is, because I initially put Hellscreen on Kickstarter.
Okay.
And it didn't do that well. I think it maybe made 15 or 20%. But it was such a useful learning experience, because one thing that I found was that like people, like they either write it off completely or they're interested. Like it never really felt there was anything in the middle, apart from why is there a rear view mirror? Like that was the one question that kept coming up. But like generally, like I feel the game is pretty art driven, because I'm an artist by in the industry for the last however many years, and I think that the look of it, like either people are like, wow, this looks great, or this looks like shit. Sorry, can I swear?
It's all right, we'll beep you out.
Yeah, cool, great. It looks like shit or whatever, and it's sort of like people don't see past that kind of that first initial veneer sometimes.
Right, and I think that's kind of unfortunate. I'm working on a game at the moment, and we've been
we need to talk about later on.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about later on out of this podcast.
Yeah.
And some of the art that we've got is kind of from the previous versions of the game, which I didn't work on. A lot of the stuff that I'm developing at the moment don't look sexy. It's a lot of block out levels, which it's not a screenshot Saturday material.
Yeah, right.
But it's great for the narrative. It's great for me to show to the environment artist to go like, all right, yeah, okay, we get what we need to build here.
Yeah.
So I'm on two different sides on the open development thing. It's like, yeah, totally, if you're doing beautiful stuff, but if I'm doing a mechanic in which you pick something up.
Yeah, well, I suppose there ends up being a point of it, like in the development process, where you can talk about it, but it's theory up until a point where people see it or play it, right?
Right.
And then it becomes like this real tangible thing. And because I've talked to friends about various game ideas for ages and ages and ages. Not really done anything with it, but like with Hellscreen, that was the first thing where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pitch my flag on this. It's gonna be the thing that I use to get me out there as a developer.
Okay.
Right? Do you know what I mean? Like, because I wanted to like make my games for a long time, but as an artist, I wasn't that tech savvy. And then,
what are you building it in?
So I'm building it in Playmaker in Unity, and that's changed everything. Because it just means I can just make it, and I can make it, which was never a possibility for me before, because I never had the time or the patience to really sit through and learn code as well as logic. But Playmaker allows me to do both at the same time,
I used Playmaker a while back when I started learning game making.
Yeah.
There's a functional state machine type stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's awesome, because that's stopping you having to code.
Yeah.
And I'm a coder, but I'm not going to judge other people because they can't code. Right?
It's funny because I for a while I was sort of like, oh, I'm not really coding, and I guess you're kind of not. But I really was sort of worried about it, like, will people see this as a real game? I don't think people care how the burger's made anyway. But like, I would speak to like some programmers that I really respect, and they'd be like, it's fine, like you're making a game, like. Right. And I guess it comes down to that question of why are you making the game? I'm making the game so I want to make the game, not to learn programming, right? Do you know what I mean? So,
and also one thing that I should clarify is that programming is solving a problem.
Yeah.
Now you can solve it with the one tool that you know, which might be that one language that you know how to write in, or you can be open to any tool in your toolbox.
Yeah.
You've found another tool in your toolbox. Solve that problem with that tool, right? If you become a master of that tool, the only problem can be then being judged that you only know how to use that tool. But you're making a game. You're making an awesome game. I do have to ask though, why the rear views?
Oh, right, okay. So, this has been like a kind of an idea just gestating for a while, right? Because like I am terrible at multiplayer first-person shooter games.
Okay.
I remember playing like Quake 3 at uni, and I was okay, but like I remember playing.
I used to get my ass beaten on
it.
So
oh my god, yeah. I mean, there was so many players that had grown up with PCs, and I had, but not in the same kind of like twitchy game kind of thing, right? I never played anything online. And I remember talking to someone, I think it was my mate Charlie, about like the thing that annoyed me about first-person shooter games was it felt like, I think I've been playing Star Wars Battlefront as well or something like that, and I remember thinking it felt like the first person to see the other person would win.
Right. If it came into your screen.
Yeah, they saw me. Oh, I can't get round. Oh, they've shot. I'm dead. Great. And I just remember thinking, like,
especially
I'm not
in console games.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, especially in console games
because your turn rate is like so little.
Yeah. If you're playing like a split screen multiplayer with other console players, that's much better for me because I guess you're on the same kind of playing field. But I think the thing with like, you know, you're playing a first-person shooter multiplayer game online with a PC, and obviously I wasn't that good, but it was also like, oh, they've seen me, I'm dead. I've been shooting at them.
But if they already saw you, they've already had a. It reminds me of that thing of like where you should never light a cigarette, 3 cigarettes with 3 matches. Or
right. Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about? So when I smoked, it was very unlucky to light 3 cigarettes with the same match.
Right. Okay.
Because the first cigarette, the sniper spotted you. The second cigarette, they're getting a bead on it, and the third cigarette that you light that sparks up.
That's the giveaway. Yeah.
Right.
That's really interesting.
So it was always unlucky to light 3 cigarettes.
Yeah.
But this isn't kind of a weird tangent, but you know, this is the same thing. It's like if they spot you, they're already getting that 200 millisecond step forward to be able to aim at you.
Yeah.
And by the time you turn around, you've got 200 milliseconds to turn around.
Yeah.
Try to center the reticule on them, and they've already shot you.
Yeah. So I mean that would happen a lot, and you know, that was one of my frustrations. But I sort of felt a little bit left out and excluded. But then I was just thinking about this quote unquote problem. It's not really a problem. I just need to get better at the game. But like, and I was like, oh, like a rear view mirror. And initially, I thought of it as being like something that would be on either side for some reason.
Okay,
but I guess that's what you would do with a field of view anyway, right? You make your field of view wider, yeah. And then this idea of doing a rear view mirror just popped into my mind, and I thought it was kind of funny. And I said to a few people about it, and it came off as like a joke. And I thought, like, I'm going to stick this in a prototype that I was working on, because I was teaching myself Playmaker, and I was essentially making a Game Boy D-make of Devil Daggers.
Okay.
So that's how Hellscreen started. It was like, I'm going to try and do something like that just to teach myself. And I put in the rear view mirror, and I put in a weapon, made it feel nice. I was like, oh, this could be its own thing. And I had this idea of doing like a kind of Geiger style Doom game from when I was 16 anyway.
Yeah, Darkseid, did you ever see the game Darkseid?
No.
Oh wow, that's
wait, this must be, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's a
huge, is it like a point and click type
It's a
thing?
point and click.
Yeah, I think I've seen this, yeah.
I'm not sure if it was designed by Geiger, but they used a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, 90% of his work.
Yeah, I mean, you see Geiger stuff pop up in a lot of like games in the 90s, like it's not Devil Crush, Alien Crush, which is a pinball game. I think it was an Amiga thing.
Okay.
Is heavy on the Geiger stuff.
Well, yeah, the 90s Geiger owned.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is that because Geiger's stuff looks really good in pixel art,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and that was kind of, I like the idea of doing something like retro flavored that was like kind of pixelated but had that Geiger thing. And that's kind of what I always imagined this game before it became Hellscreen would look like. It would be Geiger in the Doom engine. Right. And I'm like, that to me is compelling. Like I love that look.
There were some mods for Doom that I played, which was like Alien Doom, right?
Yeah.
Which they ripped all the sounds. I mean, I don't know what.
Well, they ripped it from Alien Trilogy, right?
Was it? No,
Yeah. So there was a Doom mod which was Doom Aliens, which I mean that's really old.
That's the one that I played.
Yeah.
I'm really old.
And I think within the last 5 years, I can't remember exactly when, someone made another Aliens mod for Doom. Maybe someone else ripped all the sprites and the sounds and the weapon graphics from Alien Trilogy and put them in. And I'm still yet to play it, but I really do want to play it.
Yeah, there was some like amazing stuff. Like for example, all the barrels became eggs.
Yeah.
And they did this very interesting way of, like the alien goop.
Yeah.
The resin that they had to pull away, that hide aliens in it. And man, I shat myself. That game. That mod was like amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to.
But I mean, like, the thing is, all the Alien games, like, it's weird because like we've got Alien Isolation.
Yeah.
And I really want to play it, but I don't like scary games.
That's super scary, man.
And it's super scary.
Yeah.
But like, I really
turn the volume down and then whatever.
Oh, I think that'll make it worse. Because like, if I can't hear something, no, I don't think I could. But I mean, like, I was always a big fan of the Alien shoot 'em up games that came out. Like, I didn't even mind Alien Colonial Marines. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but
the only thing that really, the two things that bugged me about that game was the pulse rifle that you love. Like, that's what you wanted to bloody fire, right? And the sound on it was terrible.
Yeah, it was.
And after firing,
you know what? And I'm a stickler for those, particularly with those set of weapons. If they don't sound or look right, I'm kind of out.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I think it sounded okay, but it was just, it felt like you're playing that loop that like you didn't have enough of the sound ranges, and even in the film, they'd got one sample of it and
they just
played it.
Yeah.
It was horrible sound. And the other one was that, give me a chance, buddy, right? I know that Alien's meant to be super powerful, but if you make all the environment super dark, which is great for a movie, and I'm being attacked by aliens, I can't get a beat on them. Yeah. So I can't fight them.
It's interesting because I was talking to a friend.
But the rest of it looked great.
Yeah. I mean, like I was talking to a friend about like the actual Alien. We've really gone off a tangent, but I'm sure I'll loop back around. Yeah. Like the Alien films, we were talking about like they should just kind of stop making them for a while because there's not really a lot you can do with it anymore, right? Right. And I was like, well, the only way you'd sort of kind of make it interesting is like with a radically new environment, which they've kind of done, not really worked.
They tried to do in 3. I mean, 3.
See, I really like 3. I know it's not popular with a lot of people, but like I love the look of it.
We're going to lose a lot of listeners now because I'm also a big fan of it. But when it was being made, there was like 8 scripts before it got made.
Have you? Yeah, I'm guessing you've seen the making of with all the directors and stuff. Yeah.
Before it got made, I had one of the scripts.
Oh wow!
So I had the William Gibson script that's now been made.
Is this the Wooden Planet one? No, that was someone else.
No, that's somebody else.
That was Vincent, someone or other.
Yeah, so it wasn't on another planet. It was like them going back. So Hicks and Ripley and Newt dies, if I remember right, but they all get back. So it was basically aliens on Earth. Yeah. So that was the next logical step of aliens, right? So you had like an individual ship, a planet that's not Earth with a few humans, and then the alien makes it back to Earth. That's the logical progression, right? But then we went well, let's go to a prison planet. And you go like, well, we did this with... sorry, listeners, we've just gone on an alien
I mean, I guess what I was getting to is there's a point in Alien versus Predator, which like the 2013, I want to say, came out. And there was a level where basically it was an alien hive, but in like a club. And they start swarming, and there's this like music playing, and there's these lights going. It's a little bit much, but I'm like, hey, this is kind of cool because I've not seen that before, right? It was sort of a bit like the club scene out of Blade, like iconic scene, but with aliens, and you're in the middle of the club, and I'm like, hey, this is cool. Yeah.
Well, that's one way we're going. Like, we can have strobes all over the place.
Oh, it was like that. It was a bit much. But the idea of it was great, right?
I guess you can't do that in games, you know, like putting strobes in
Yeah, God,
into a level that would just kill, like, no, that would just, no audience.
Yeah, well, that's it, you know, too much for the eyes, I guess.
So before you were doing Hellscreen, like, you worked on other games, right? So
Oh, yeah, so I worked in games for, I think I'm like in there 10 years now, working primarily as like an environment artist,
Okay.
3D environment artist, but like more recently been doing things more like shaders, VFX, that kind of, like a little bit more technical. I'm not a technical artist, but I'm more technical than the average artist, you know, whatever that means.
I think it's really interesting listening to job descriptions in games, because it really depends which studio you're at,
Yeah.
or what scale you're at.
Yeah.
Because I can be lead level design in one place, and then you go somewhere else and I go like, oh yeah, no, you cannot touch any of the gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that's my job. That's my role.
Yeah,
in
I
one
mean,
place.
I've definitely not got jobs because I didn't understand what the job was, right? In the sense of like, oh, I went for a company, I went for a phone interview at a company. It was like, oh, it's for a senior artist role, and I was talking to them, and it turned out that actually it was more of a lead thing, or it was the other way around. I can't remember what it was, but I remember thinking there's been a miscommunication here because we're using the same terms for different things.
Right.
And I'd actually seemed too experienced for a role that in any other company I was not perfect for, but right for, right?
Okay.
And that was kind of weird.
I found it kind of interesting talking to different people in the industry. It just seems to vary a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and there's quite a wide range in stuff. Like
Yeah.
you might talk to people and go, oh yeah, no, that's a XYZ role. And
Yeah.
you're like, but is it though?
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is that like I'm going to absolutely contradict myself now, but like I'm not massive. I'm a bit not anti-corporate, but I get a bit bored of it sometimes. But I also don't like flat hierarchy companies either.
Okay, the Steam model.
Yeah, because I feel like they generally.
Or Valve model. I should
Yeah,
say.
right. Because I feel like flat hierarchy is just a way to generally not pay people as much as they're worth.
Right.
And
Okay.
also like those companies inevitably, for the most part, absolutely have a hierarchy. And when they promise this kind of idea that everyone gets to say, anyone can come up with the idea, and it just doesn't happen, I think you're killing a bit of passion there, or a bit of enthusiasm.
It might be like whoever's the loudest.
Yeah.
Whoever's got the
Yeah, or like whoever's got the biggest ego, you know?
Yeah. Can push it through. I don't know. The flat hierarchy always sounds good on paper.
Yeah. And I'm sure it can work, but like I've worked at a place before where there was clear hierarchy, but everyone did get a say, and everyone, if it was a good idea, it was just a good idea. But it was actually executed that way rather than being told in the interview or on a website, this is how we work. Do you know what I mean? It just was that way, and people felt comfortable, and even if you could tell that someone wasn't comfortable, you made sure that they got the floor for a little bit, just to make sure that if they did want to contribute, they could.
One of the things that we found, and that's how this podcast has actually taken off, was that we did a panel at EGX Resd, which listeners know about because that's why they're listening to this podcast if you go to episode 1. But a lot of the questions, instead of saying like, all right, now we've done the panel, we're now going to take questions from the audience, we said actually we'll use Diplo, a website called dip.lo, and you can put in questions beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're doing a talk, people put questions and people can upvote those questions.
Oh, right.
And what's interesting is then you go like, oh, here's the questions in order of upvotes, right? And that makes it a little bit more egalitarian, because people say, yeah, no, that was a question I was going to ask, and you get less of the, well, this is less of a question, more of a statement type.
Yeah, see, I hate that. I switch off when that stuff happens.
Right,
like,
because it's like, oh, well, look, they're the ones that are doing the talk. They're
Yeah.
the ones that are prepared for it. Anyway, I'll get off my horse on that one. But what was interesting is that then you get a lot, it allows people that normally wouldn't ask questions to ask a question.
right, yeah.
So that's how this podcast was kind of born, because it actually, we had more questions than we could answer in the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that should be used a lot more for those questions, but also like in companies, how do you do that? How do you, like, the people that don't feel comfortable shouting?
I guess, I mean,
I'm not asking you to answer it.
no, I mean, but it's worth thinking about, because, you know, at some point I hope to work with other people,
Right.
maybe have a small studio or company, whether that's a remote thing, I don't know,
Right.
but I guess like I think you've just got to make sure that you make sure that people know that they've got a voice and they get a chance to put it out. And if you see someone speaking over someone or generally being a little bit of a spanner in the works, you have a conversation with them about it. And you know, and I, is that what suggestion box is for? Do they even get used anymore? Because like to me, the idea of putting something in the suggestion box is like you're commenting on something you shouldn't be. It feels like a bit of a, I don't know if I should have done that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, and people can tweet us and tell us their suggestions, but at Level Design FM, that's our Twitter. We actually managed to get a Twitter account after getting blocked for being...
Yeah, I remember that. That wasn't that long ago, was it?
Yeah. So like I thought, hey, great, let's make a Twitter account.
Nope.
Nope. And it's because I put the date of the recording, and they go, no, you're under 13 years old. It's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, right.
The account is, the business is, but, or whatever you want to say. But anyway. So, how are you approaching, I mean, you're environment artist by trade?
Yeah, I guess that's the phrase. I used it earlier, yeah.
How are you approaching the level design on this? Because we've had some chats about this.
Yeah, we have. So very slowly. Like I'm still learning. I feel like a massive beginner, right, when it comes to level design. But what I'm trying to do is get something down, play through it, work out what the theme of the level is. Based on the shapes that I've already made, and then kind of redo that to fit something that I want. So I was working on a level which I knew I wanted this kind of corridor. Sorry, this is what I wanted to lead the player to this room, and this room was going to have these giant ring shapes because I just like that shape. I thought that was cool, and there was going to be kind of these lava pools everywhere, and there's going to be like streams kind of coming vertically down, and I was like, oh, this looks like a refinery. Well, I'm working on a texture set which is kind of like a refinery, so great, that can go in there. And then I decided that I wanted the entire wall of this massive area to open out because I want to play with scale. I want the player to feel small, like this thing's this big, like this living kind of thing, right? And then I did that, and it started designing itself once I knew that I wanted. It started from that space of I want the player to move around and that feel nice. And once I decided that I wanted these rings, it sort of designed itself a little bit. And I was like, well, I can lead the player here because I have pipes going there, and this will be like a kind of a secret door once this lava stops flowing. It just kind of started writing itself. But as I've sort of read up more about like level design, and because I read that you should design your theme first, I started doing a few experiments. So one of the things I did was, after your talk on corridors, I was like, I wonder if I can do a level which is like a corridor, but is fun, right? And it ended up being less of it. It was like A to B, straight line. Well, that's not interesting. They ended up this spiral, and I still don't know if it's fun yet. But like, one thing that I decided after that was in Hellscreen that I would have novelty levels. Right. Cool. So because
and Hell, I mean Doom and a lot of other games have got these. I'm trying to remember. There's a great level in Quake, and it had a castle in the middle of a cave.
Yeah.
You know, like from an environment artist, you're like, why is there a castle in the middle of a cave, right? Like, because it looks great.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's it. Like, I definitely want iconic shots. Like, I want breaks in the pace of the game where there'll be carnage, everything will be going down, and then you can just take a moment just to chill out, and those will be the vista moments, right? Where it's like, here's a vista of this planet or world that you're on, this dimension, you know. Isn't that cool? Now I can go and kill some more stuff, you know. But like, so the way I'm building levels is because it's got this Metroidvania thing, there'll be small chunks of level that you basically warp to. And as you unlock weapons which act as keys for certain doors, because if you shoot them a certain way, they open. You will.
That's a great mechanic.
Yeah, I know, right?
That makes sense, right?
Yeah, not to blow my trumpet, I was like, hey, that's a good idea.
Like, what do we have to have 3 things when you have 2 things?
Yeah, well, because one of the design principles I wanted was that like the game should be simplified, and I wanted to double down on the gun thing. I was like, well, my guns can open the doors. I was like, oh, that's cool. certain guns can only open certain doors, and as long as I signal that correctly, the minute someone gets a rocket launcher, they're like, oh, I remember that door back in that other level over there. I can instantly warp there, open it. Now I've got access to more kills, which is the currency.
Okay,
So it ended up being this loop of like, get gun, open door to new level, kill more things, loop. I was like, that's really tight. Do you know what I mean? And the fun comes from working out the best way to kill these things, working out where these doors are, and working out how to use these weapons in different ways.
Right.
See what I mean?
Well, it's a rock paper stone loop, right? It's like
Well, you sort of you see like various diagrams, like Vlambeer do it all the time, where it's sort of like you've got a mechanic, it allows you to do certain thing, you upgrade that certain thing, so you can do more of that mechanic.
Right.
And it was cool. And once I started layering that with these other systems, I was like, oh, it's doubling down on the old school 90s thing of I just want to shoot shit, but it actually adds a bit of depth with the Metroidvania side of it, right? Because then you're like, the minute you get a new weapon, it makes everything more exciting because you know that you've opened up a whole new section of the game.
Yeah, it's like you've unlocked like a new playstyle in a way.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
I
yeah.
haven't seen the weapons in
There's
Hellscreen,
probably about 6 or 7, I think.
Okay.
And there's like.
But even if you don't have these, excuse me if I'm jumping in, but
Sure.
if you have a machine gun versus bazooka, right?
Yeah.
You got like different play styles.
Well, yeah, especially because like the way you use the weapons, like aside from the fact that you can fire most weapons behind you in the rearview mirror, right? So you can be walking along, run away from something, press the right mouse button, you'll be shooting behind you, right?
Oh, sweet.
But like, so one of the things I've got is that like the pistol, if you tap the button, you'll shoot faster. I mean, that's a standard thing, right? But like another one is if with the rocket launcher, if you click and hold, you tag all these, like tag the enemies, you let go, it's a swarm kind of missile thing. But if you just tap it once, it will fire at a larger rocket, like in Doom, like the kind of standard thing.
Right.
So each weapon's basically got an alternative fire, as well as the fire behind you thing.
And how much of the gameplay is like behind you?
Well, so there's enemies that you can only see in the rearview mirror.
Oh.
There's rooms that are completely black in the main view, but in the rear view you can see them. And because you can enlarge the rear view mirror, if you press like control, the rear view mirror kind of takes up half the screen, so that you can sort of navigate rooms.
Okay, navigate rooms.
But walking backwards, it's kind of weird. But again, I would never have like loads of combat in that because that would be too much.
Yeah.
So that'd be like, oh, you're in a bit of a weird labyrinth. Cool, you can reverse your way through it, right?
This is my nightmare. I suck at driving backwards.
Yeah, right. So I might even toy with the idea of having it so the controls reverse. Demo that, but then it's just like playing the game in reverse, but not. I don't know. So those are the things I'm going to be playing with once I get it in front of players. Yeah. To see how they feel with it. You know.
When do you think you're going to get it in front?
I mean, I've been saying in a couple of months for about 2 years.
Right.
But I'm getting to the point now where it's enough of what I consider my vision to show to people and not expect them to fill in the blanks. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Instead of like saying, "Oh, there'll be a door here." This would open this door. Like, no, open that door. Yeah.
So I mean, I definitely because I've got a demo that I want to get ready for like publisher interested people. You know, I definitely want like a couple of environments, a couple of weapons. But I was actually thinking about this. There's going to come a point where I'm going to start to show less on Twitter as I want to keep some things a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, but right? I think that's where your tough choice is going to come in. It's like you have to keep on showing stuff on Twitter because you want to get all the people following it. Yeah. But you also want to like hide a lot of stuff. Who was it? I'm trying to remember. I think it was Mike Bithell did in. I'm going to get the wrong. Subsurface Circle. He said like, "Hey guys, stream all you want, all the way up to like chapter 3 or something like that. Yeah. But please don't ruin anything from here onwards." Yeah. That might have to be your guiding principle.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest,
like
I
don't
mind
hit all these other things that I will show. But
yeah. I mean, the thing is, I don't mind about. I guess I don't mind about spoilers so much. It's more I don't want to. Because I feel like people will find spoilers if they want to find them.
Yeah,
right?
I don't mean it by spoilers. It'll be more like these are the bits that, especially in pre-production, because once it's out there, it's out there. Yeah. But if you're going for publishers, it's like you still have to keep the people that are going to be buying it, or possibly buying it, showing it, enjoying it. Yeah. But publishers, you want to say like, but this is the real.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess. what I'd end up doing when I do pitch it to publishers, I'd have, here's the game, you can play it, it's how it feels like, but also here's maybe some concept art or a storyboard of, here are some cool narrative beats that I'll be like, whoa. I think those are the things you want to hide, right? Do you know what I mean?
So, where can people check out Hellscreen?
They can check it out on Hellscreen_game on Twitter.
Okay.
That's the sort of game account. To follow more sort of like day-to-day stuff on what I'm doing, my Twitter handle's @UK_resistant.
And they can tweet you and ask you questions all about the game.
Yeah.
And environment art and design.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's been great. Yeah.
You can email you can email us if you like, but that's so retro. You can tweet us at @LevelDesignFM or show @LevelDesign.fm. And hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you very much. Bye.